Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. In less than 2 months, the war in Ukraine will reach its first anniversary. The fact that Ukraine exceeded expectations, both in terms of the performance of its armed forces and the overall resilience of the Ukrainian nation, should be celebrated, had conflicts continue to take place in the south of Ukraine. The Kiev army continues to apply a war at electrician to the Russian military unit stationed in this. Especially Russian headquarters in the Sapir region are detected and destroyed by Ukrainian soldier. The Ukrainian armed forces blew up the headquarters of the Russian invaders near Tok in the Zia region. We know that hundreds of soldiers are stationed in this headquarters. We can also mention that there is a substantial amount of ammunition in the headquarters. The Kiev soldiers silently targeted the Russian headquarters like lion approaching its prey and blew it up and destroyed. After the explosion, black smoke rose into the sky. Within the explosion of the ammunition in the headquarters, the intensity of the explosion increased. Many times we learned that as a result of the operation in the Ukrainian armed forces, 80 Russian occupying soldiers and equipment groups were destroyed. The Russian army seems doomed to lose and suffer losses in the east as well as in the south of. A similar situation occurred in the Bakhmut front. After the blow-up of the Russian headquarters in the Zia region, Ukrainian defense forces destroy 2 ammunition depots of Russian soldiers in the Bakhmut area. Ammunition depots destroyed by key rockets are located in the Avdiivka, PKA, and Demand district. Ukrainian rocket forces and artillery blew up different targets, including large concentrations of Russian occupying troops, personnel equipment, as well as weapons, ammunition, and fuel tanks. However, despite heavy losses near Bemo, Dama's army continues to attack the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukrainian and Russian forces clashed 22 times in one day in the city of Bemo, in the Donbas region of eastern. Russian forces engaged in this engagement with more than 238 artillery, multi-rounds, rocket systems, and tanks. War in BK has been going on for months, and now Ukraine is very close to its happy ending. Russian forces in the region are led by members of the Wagner Group, a notorious paramilitary unit formed by Evgeny Prigozhin, an ally of Russian President Putin. Despite the resistance of the Russian soldiers and the insistence of the conflict, the Ukrainian Border Guard Service enters Sodar in the BMA region without fear of Russian fire. The Ukrainian Border Guard Corps challenged the Russian army by sharing the spray ants on social media platform. Ukrainian soldiers featured in the video near Sodar explained that the Russian forces had changed tactics and were now engaging the infantry without any preparatory RE fire, and that the Ukrainian forces had hit 15 Russian infantry groups from 20 meters away. This apparent change in tactics indicates that Washington forces in the SOR area are there intensifying their attempt to gain that the critical level, but are unlikely to secure an operational significant area. Don's governor Pavlo Kiko said that more than 60% in Bemu was destroyed as a result of hostilities in the region. According to the claims of Don's governor, Kiko, the Washington invaders were pushed back to their previous positions. That is, they were pushed out of the city limits. Of course, behind such a successful advance of the Ukrainian army, there are important ammunition. The favorite of the Kiev inventory is high-precision weapon systems. It is possible to say that relatively high-precision weapon systems such as HIMARS and MMLRS, hunt Russian targets and achieve unparalleled sniper accuracy, which can be confirmed by the recent events in Maka. HIMARS is changing everything in Ukraine, destroying Russian barracks, blowing up ammunition. Attacking command centers are just a few of the things HIMARS has done in Ukraine. HIMARS provided the element of surprise to the Ukrainian troops when they first started using multiple rocket launches. Ukraine succeeded in catching the initiative and momentum in the struggle. They also forced Russian army to adjust its tactics in the battle. Conventional artillery strikes also targeted Russian artillery areas, which reduced the invader ability to generate counter-battery fire that could threaten HIMARS. The Ukrainians also used HIMARS to shape the battlefield before the counter-attack began. In addition to the Ukrainian ground forces, Ukrainian naval units are also inflicting heavy flaws on the Russian invaders. Military units and squads of the Marine Corps Command of the Naval Command of Ukraine continue to perform their duties to repel the large-scale armed Russian of the Russian Federation. Ukrainian Navy units eliminated 19 Russian invaders and destroyed an enemy ammunition. Last day, the Kiev artillery units and other subdivisions of the Ukrainian Marines inflicted fire damage on the invaders, as a result of which 3 Russian soldiers were eliminated. This is now a war of attrition, although Moscow seems to have an advantage in terms of population and territory. Other factors, namely the human factor and ammunition, may be decisive in this war. The war in Ukraine has shown the critical importance of the human factor but the Ukraine war is quickly turning into a war of numbers. Russia's ammunition reserves against Ukraine are decreasing day by day, praised Russian stockpiles are depleted at rates only Soviet-era planners could have foreseen in the event of all-out war against NATO. The Russian forces proving incompatible for Ukrainian territory, traditional battlefield of a tradition. The forces that Russia has put on the ground since the Battle of Kiev in 2022 are inadequately trained and equipped like non-commissioned officers, and above all, unable to deploy their most acclaimed new Russian weapon platforms. Russian leader Putin realizes that the Ukraine war has gone astray. All of Mr. Putin's strategies on the Ukraine war are losing value one by one. The Moscow army especially suffers from a shortage of military personnel, the move of the Kremlin leader who wants to solve the problem. It's quite simple. Declaration of mobilization. Let us remind you once again that the great dynamics of the Russian losses at the front require the renewal of its personnel, and therefore a new wave of mobilization is expected. Another problem facing Russia, which is accelerating to train a new 300,000 strike force possibly in preparation for another offensive, is that these new units will not even match the quality of the troops deployed in Ukraine. Last. According to Serdy, spokesperson of the eastern troops of the Ukrainian armed forces, the presence of a large number of military personnel is the only trump card for the Russians. Serdy declared that a wave of mobilization in Russia that will begin on January 5 will not help Russia in the war because a trained and motivated Ukrainian army equipped advanced weapons will resist it. Demotivation and training of the Ukrainian armed forces combined with latest Western equipment could be a turning point in the war and flee any mobilization efforts of the Kremlin administration. The Kremlin is putting forward the idea of a temporary ceasefire as the Russian army suffers losses. The Kremlin's announcement came as Russian forces, after serious defeats, struggled to build defenses, send new troops to the front, and rebuild fragmented units. The Kremlin on Thursday declared a 36-hour ceasefire in Ukraine to mark the Eastern Orthodox Christmas, which will be the largest ceasefire since Russia's invasion in February. But the leaders of Ukraine rejected this idea as a cynical stance of a cruel and unreliable enemy Russia has previously rejected and repeatedly violated. According to Ukraine, limited local ceasefires aimed at allowing humanitarian evacuations and aid deliveries in besieged areas such as Maria. Political and military analysis have described the ceasefire announced by Putin as a public relations ploy that Ukraine will try to exploit. Regardless of how it reacts, they said that if Kiev accepts the ceasefire will allow Putin to present himself as a peacemaker. If Ukraine ignores this, Russia may try to claim higher moral ground and use ongoing hostilities to discredit Ukraine in the eyes of Russian and all world will. Despite the fact that it has started the war and its forces have committed many documented atrocities. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.